The abyssal terror. The rolling waves carry our ship, the HMS Aquarius, as we venture further out on the Pacific Ocean. Our destination is Dutch Harbor in the Aleutian Islands from the busy port of San Francisco. I write these words, though, with a trembling hand, for what we have encountered defies reason and instills unspeakable terror in our hearts. The crew is restless, and ominous whispers about sea monsters fill the air. The terror began 2 days ago, when the top lookout spotted a large submerged mass approaching the ship from the stern. It was larger than anything any soul aboard had ever seen in the sea. The thing had no general shape that we could discern, yet it kept pace with the ship. I tried to brush it off as mere trickery of the light, but I cannot shake the feeling that something malevolent lurks beneath the surface. May 14th, 1888. Whispers of a cursed creature have spread like wildfire among the crew. They speak of a deep sea monster that emerges from the darkness to claim unsuspecting sailors. Superstitious nonsense, I told myself, but the fear in their eyes betrays their belief. Captain Whitman remains steadfast, reassuring the men that there is no such thing as sea monsters. May 16th. The night was upon us when terror struck the ship. A monstrous tentacle erupted from the waves and latched onto the side of the Aquarius. It was like nothing I had ever seen before, an amalgamation of nightmarish proportions. The creature pulled with tremendous force, causing the ship to list precariously. Men cried out in horror as they tried to defend the ship, but their efforts were futile. I watched in disbelief as some of my companions were snatched away by the relentless beast and dragged into the abyss with their desperate screams echoing through the salty air. The nightmarish encounter left us shaken and disoriented. The once vibrant crew has dwindled, and terror grips those who remain. Captain Whitman maintains a facade of courage, but I see the fear lurking in his eyes. May 18th, the creature has returned with a vengeance. It towered over the ship, and its sinister presence was suffocating. Though it had tentacles, it was not an octopus or squid. I do not have the words to describe the monstrosity that appeared before us, but the thing was made of nightmares. We fought with whatever we had, but the creature was unstoppable. Tentacles coiled around the masts, snapping them like twigs, while others plucked sailors from the deck like grapes from a vine. Blood painted the sea red, and the anguished cries of my companions haunt me. The situation grows increasingly dire. We are mere puppets to this abomination, its horrifying appendages puppeteering our lives. There is no escape, no sanctuary. We are trapped, prisoners of the abyssal horror. May 20th, we gathered the surviving crew in the captain's quarters. Captain Whitman, his once commanding voice now a mere whisper, solemnly declared that we must abandon ship. The Aquarius is lost to us, he said. We have taken on too much water. Our hull is battered, and we can no longer stop the sea from coming in. Our only chance of survival is to take to the lifeboats and put our lives in the hands of God. May 23rd. The lifeboats offer little solace as the sun beats down upon our wretched bodies, while below us stalks our horrible shadow. We have drifted aimlessly for days, praying for rescue but knowing in our hearts that it will not come. Hunger gnaws at us and the water rations dwindle. May 25th. Days blur together as hope fades. Our numbers have declined further and desperation has taken hold. We lost sight of the other lifeboat sometime in the dark last night. We don't know if they were taken, sank, or merely drifted off. The last of our hope and courage is gone. We draw lots to decide who will be sacrificed for the others to survive a while longer. I tremble at the cruel reality that we have become monsters ourselves, driven to unfathomable acts by this eldritch horror. New entry. The lifeboat is now a tomb. Hunger and madness consume us. Our skin is burned and blistered and we are nearly blind. The few of us who remain have lost all sense of time. Each moment feels like an eternity of suffering. The creature continues to torment us, its malevolent presence a constant reminder of our impending doom. New entry. I am the last survivor, the final witness to this harrowing tale. My companions are gone, taken by the unfathomable depths and the ravenous appetite of the abyssal terror. If anyone finds this journal, know that the HMS Aquarius met a fate darker than any maritime disaster. We ventured where we were not meant to go, and in doing so unleashed a horror from the depths of nightmares. The lifeboat has begun to leak, and as the waves slowly consume my floating casket, I feel the cold tendrils of death enveloping me. I accept my fate, for there is no escape from the clutches of this malevolent creature. Even if I were to survive this bodily, my mind would be forever wrapped in the coils of that terrible beast. However, I am not foolish enough to believe that I will ever see land again. My hope is that this journal serves as a warning to those who might dare to tread these treacherous waters in the future. May God have mercy on our souls.
The Grindylow. It was a tranquil summer day, the sun gracefully descending towards the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the rocky coast. Tidal pools were all around us and filled with wonderful and mysterious sea life. I stood there with my young son, Lucas, who was playing gleefully in the shallow waters, his laughter echoing in harmony with the crashing waves. "Mummy, look what I found!" Lucas called, holding up a seashell with excitement. "That's lovely, sweetheart," I replied, smiling at his innocence. Though I was mere feet from him, I began to feel nervous. Anxious, I glanced out towards the water and saw something hauntingly unnatural, a pair of glowing eyes watching us from the murky depths of the sea. My breath hitched and a shiver ran down my spine. I couldn't tear my eyes away from those mesmerizing yet malevolent eyes. "Lucas, come back to Mommy!" I called out, urgency in my voice. "It's getting late and we should head home." "But Mummy, I want to play more," he protested, splashing the water playfully. Panic surged through me, and I made my way towards him, glancing back over my shoulder at those relentless, glowing eyes. They disappeared beneath the surface, leaving only ripples behind. "Lucas, please, it's not safe," I pleaded, my heart pounding. He looked at me, a hint of mischief in his eyes, but finally relented and came towards me. I breathed a sigh of relief, about to wrap my arms around him protectively. But then, in the blink of an eye, it happened. In a swift, calculated move, a scaly, gnarled hand shot out from the depths of the tide pool and snatched him from the shore. He let out a cry, his tiny fingers grasping at the rock as he was dragged under. "Lucas!" I screamed, my pitch high with fear and desperation. As I ran to the pool, I saw how deep it was and realized there was a channel that connected it directly to the open sea. I jumped into the water, desperate to save my son, but it was too late. I could see that the pool was empty and Lucas was nowhere in sight. I swam into the channel but was pushed back by the incoming tide. I hastily climbed out of the pool and ran to the edge where rock met sea. I dove in hoping to give chase to the terrible creature and my son, but it was no use. I was quickly overtaken by the force of the waves and battered against the jagged rocks. I was cut and bruised all over. I nearly drowned before I managed to pull myself from the water, coughing and sputtering. Yet I pulled myself free and lay on the rocks, gasping for air as the waves crashed all around me and the tide rose. A deafening silence engulfed me, and my heart sank with the weight of grief and disbelief. I sat up and looked for help, but there was no one around. I was alone in my nightmare. Days passed in a numb blur. The constables came and made their reports. Neighbours and family came with their tears and casseroles, and all had a kind word, but not a single person believed what I had seen. They put my story down to grief, thinking I had snapped under the stress of the event, and no one believed. My heartache deepened. I couldn't sleep, I was unable to eat. Every night, the haunting image of those glowing eyes plagued my dreams. So 2 weeks later, as the sun set and the tide began to rise, I returned to the same beach, determined to confront the creature that had taken my son. "Come out, show yourself," I yelled at the sea, tears streaming down my face. "Give me back my son!" In response, the water churned and the Grindylow emerged, its scaly body shimmering in the fading light. Its eyes locked onto mine, and I trembled with fear and anger. "Why did you take my son?" I demanded, my voice shaking. The Grindylows' voice echoed like the crashing waves. "The tide of life is unforgiving, and it claims what it desires. Your son was what it desired." "No, I won't accept that. Bring him back to me," I shouted, my grief turning into rage. The Grindylows' eerie laughter filled the air. "Humans always seek to control what they cannot understand. Your wants hold no sway here." "Please, I'll do anything to get him back," I cried, desperation overtaking me. With a haunting voice, the Grindylow spoke of ancient tales of vengeance and loss. It confessed to luring children to their watery demise, appeasing a deep-seated hunger for despair and suffering. My heart ached, realizing that my son was only one of its many victims. "No, you can't just take lives like that," I sobbed. But the Grindylow remained resolute, a creature bound by its nature. "The dance of life and death continues. It is not for you to control." At that moment something changed within me. Instead of succumbing to fear, I confronted the Grindylow with righteous anger, demanding my son back. But the creature merely chuckled, its sinister laughter echoing in the twilight. "You're heartless," I accused, tears blurring my vision. "You have no right to take innocent lives." The Grindylow's gaze remained unchanged. "I am bound by ancient laws, as are you by your human emotions. The right to take lives has been mine for a very long time." Over the following nights I returned to the beach, each time trying to reach an agreement with the Grindylow, to strike a deal that would release my son from its clutches, but the creature was unmoved by my pleas. "You promised me! Give him back!" I pleaded another time, kneeling at the water's edge. But the Grindylow's eyes remained cold, its resolve unshaken. "I promised you nothing. I cannot offer what has been taken." With that, the Grindylow turned and slid into the dark sea and would not show on the following nights. In my desperation, I sought out ancient texts and legends, hoping to find a way to outsmart the creature. I learned of forgotten rituals and offerings that might appease the Grindylow, but there were risks. On a stormy night, when the sea was at its most turbulent, I tied a stout rope about my waist and secured it to a large rock on the beach. I ventured into the water once again. With trembling hands, I placed the carefully crafted offerings at the water's edge, hoping it would grant me an audience with the Grindylow. "Please just let me see him again," I whispered, my heart breaking. The sea raged around me, the waves crashing violently against the shore. Then, as if in response to my pleas, the Grindylow emerged, its eyes narrowed, wary yet intrigued. "You return, human," it said, its voice a low rumble. I raised the dagger that I had made of silver from its hiding spot in the folds of my dress and lunged at the creature with all my force, intent on stabbing it through the heart. The Grindylow easily sidestepped my attack and pushed me forcefully into the sea. Its sharp claws raked the flesh of my bosom, and my blood easily ran, mixing with the salt water around me. The Grindylow's eerie laughter filled the night, but this time there was something different in its eyes, a glimmer of curiosity and perhaps even a hint of empathy. "I respect that you are unwilling to sit idly by, but what is done is done." "But there must be something I can do," I pressed, tears streaming down my face. In that moment of desperation and connection, the Grindylow offered me something unexpected, a warning. It warned me of a dangerous path I was treading, that seeking revenge and trying to control the forces beyond my understanding would lead to darkness and destruction. "I don't care. I'll do anything," I declared. "And what would you do, human? Fight the sea? There is nothing you can do." With this, Grindylow retreated back into the depths, leaving me alone in the midst of the storm. I clung to the knowledge that I had made a connection, however fleeting, with the creature that had taken my son. In the years that followed, I found a measure of peace, letting go of my desperate pursuit for vengeance. I channeled my grief into a determination to honour Lucas's memory, sharing stories of his bright spirit and infectious laughter with others. To this day I still visit the shoreline, where the memories of my son linger like whispers in the wind. So, though others may never believe my encounter with the Grindylow, I know deep in my heart that it exists, and I will forever hold on to the hope that my beloved son is at peace in the embrace of the sea.